We always kind of hung out in the neighborhood. When bands would come in from out of town, we would make a point of taking them to the local taverns around there. Right across the street was the Friendly Tavern.
Jan's Friendly Bennett.
In the state of Wisconsin, there literally is a tavern on every corner. It's expected. The Friendly filled that role. It was a tavern on the corner.
With some of the bands, if they needed backing vocals, we would just go over to the Friendly. Who's around? Hey man, you want to come and sing on a song right now? And sometimes Marty, the bartender, and whoever was sitting around in there would just put down their beers, and we'd march across the street and go, okay, here's the song, here's the back vocal part. We need a good gang vocal, and it would take 10 or 15 minutes. So we go, okay, thanks, man. And they would all march back to the Friendly.
Butch was the first one to say, you know, if things got to a tense spot or we were getting a little stuck on something, you know, maybe it's time for an ice cold frosty, I think were his words.
I remember when we finished that Young Fresh Fellas record, Scott sent me like a 7-inch, and I took it across the street to the Friendly. For a while, the most played single on the Friendly's jukebox was Sitting on a Pitchfork by Young Fresh Fellas.
I never knew the sun could shine all night and day. Hey, 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 hey.
We never really wanted to get away from that clubhouse feeling, but I still wanted to make records that would be ambitious and adventurous, but could get played alongside anything else on the radio and sound just as good.
Butch would send me Smart Party tapes, and they were amazing. They had that sound that became huge 5, 6 years later.
It was the Smart sound, and it's the Butch Vig sound. Overall, it's smart.
It was dirt cheap in the Gishwell building. But moving into 1254, we realized we sort of had to take the business side a little bit more seriously, and Steve and I were always terrible businessmen, so basically it just meant we got to keep this place booked.
Moving, expanding, spending some money, you know, 2 guys are running it. They probably need a little bit of help. So I went over and I said, well, I want to work here. And they said, well, we're not really hiring anybody, but you know, you want to bring a band in or something, you know, that'd be cool. So then I brought this band in a few days later, and I managed to make it happen, and I was in. They just started throwing everything at me.
During those years there, it seemed like there were just ideas flowing all the time. A lot of ideas, a lot of creativity every time you walked in the door.
For the percussion, Butch suggested that we use beer bottles. And so we went through 24 beer bottles. This is before sampling. And I remember standing there with my headphones on, and breaking beer bottles and wearing gloves so I wouldn't get shards of glass out of my fingers.
I remember one time we drove 90 miles with this orchestral chimes in the back of a pickup truck, and it was about a 200-pound unit with damper pedals, and we hauled it up 3 flights of stairs, and just to hit one chime, you know, it was really stupid.
Exploding star sound to get us in the Death of a Star from out in space. Banging on the reverb plate.
We threw rocks at buckets that had bottles.
Take a drum machine and run it through a cheap guitar amp and record that, stick it all together on a tape, chop it up, loop it together.
Steve had, not only did he have a method, whatever he recorded that you did, he would slice and dice and reuse, and it was very modern at the time. It's so easy to do now in the digital world. Steve was doing that back then.
Steve, what's on deck?